Popping in early because I've got some Passover cooking to do. So I figured I would jump in a little bit early. Today we are talking about executive function in the 18 and up crew. And first of all, if you're here, drop in, say hey. If you have any questions, as always, drop them in, or you can always DM me. And if you're on the replay, let me know. And yeah, just be in touch. So, one of the feedbacks that came back to me, feedback is what comes back. Anyway, one of the things that I kept hearing was like, okay, you're talking about all this stuff and all these different age groups, but like, I'm in my 50s and I'm doing some of this. Like, I relate to some of the things that you're talking about for me. So, definitely tune in for this one if that's where you're thinking about. So yeah, and let me know. Do you also experience some of these things? And that's okay. All right, so 18. So we have kids and we have this kind of visual of like, they become 18, they become adults in society, and they move out, they move on, whether they go to college or get jobs or, you know, move into their own places, whatever. But like 18 is this sort of magic number. Um, they, and oftentimes our teens are like, when I'm 18, I'm out of here. And here's the thing is like 18 is not all that. It's not all that because their brains are still forming. And again, let me just say this is not all the people, right? Like we are all our individual fingerprint. We are all developing at our own speed, and we need to take into consideration, like I said, diagnoses and delays, and different issues that come up, um, traumas, and all the things that can further affect brain development. But really, the bottom line is that 18 is not that magic number that we all kind of think about, and that the brain is really still forming until roughly 25. The latest research that I read was somewhere like in the 25 to 28 range, even. So there's a lot of differing opinion about exactly when, but it's clearly in the mid 20s. And obviously, it's going to be different for everybody depending on their personal experience. So that leads to the question of like, are they ready to leave home at 18? And how can we support them in being ready to leave home at 18? And it comes around to this like relative maturity, um, on a grander scheme of not just like, are they mature enough, but like, is their brain mature enough? Are they fully integrated in their executive functions and able to engage in these practical and applied experiences that we need in order to function and get shit done? So, Pax, stop. Sorry, dog. Okay. It's my equivalent of a squirrel moment right there. Um, Dog was making trouble. Okay, sorry about that. Um, See, we all have it. So here's the thing: like schools don't teach this level of executive functioning. There are things that we do learn in school. There are things that we learn through the years. There are things that we learn in our homes, but a lot of it's just experience. And so, what I find interesting is I'm going to go through a list of some of the things that we still see as a challenge at that 18 to 25 range. Um, and personally, I find that I can relate to many of them. And I think they're also very common for like women of my age and their, like let's just say like mid, well, I'm 54. I'm not dancing around my age, but I'm talking about like in that like early 50s, right? That perimenopausal phase where our hormones are like, um, brain fog. um, so things that we see an issue with are task completion, um, losing things, losing words, like just thoughts, like not that, like not focused. Um, Processing steps in a multi-step task and kind of getting confused with things, forgetting names, deadlines, punctuality. I'm going to go back to that, and multitasking. Okay. So punctuality and multitasking, I could spend an entire video on. So I am going to do something later on in a couple weeks. But what I want to say now about punctuality is that there's like a whole nother level of executive functioning that's around time and time management and time blindness. And it ties into organization and planning. So as I said, that's something I will cover again in another time. But and then multitasking. All right, mamas, how many of you are like feel like you're the queen of multitasking? Like our lives, having work and children and household and all of this stuff requires multitasking. And sometimes that's really, really hard. So a lot of times we can relate to some of these things that our kids in that 18 to 25 range are still struggling with. And then the big one that comes up that we haven't talked a lot about is emotional regulation. And that's kind of like keeping your cool, not losing your shit, um, being able to stay grounded in things. And there are so many tools that can be used for supporting that. So, yeah, so really the gist of this today's call is like 18 is not all that. 18 is not what we all kind of like envision it and hope for it to be. That there are still sometimes hurdles. So tomorrow, I'm going to mention some tools. I'm going to bring up some really simple things that we can do over the years to support kids at different ages, and also perhaps ourselves or you. So that is tomorrow. And if you are, let me just pull this up. If you are interested in joining the Resilient AF Midlife Mamas group, I have a lot more resources in there in the unit section. And it's a community of mamas that are, um, raising older kids, loving on our older kids who sometimes struggle. So it's a great place to be if that's where you are. All right, off to the kitchen. Have a great day. Bye bye.